Hello, I'm John Harvey. In this video I will present the process improvement methodology, and I will place it in context with the previous material that you have viewed. The series will include first this video, which is an overview of the DMAIC methodology, followed by zoom in to each of the phases of the methodology. In this one I will first do a flashback to a couple of videos that you've seen, then present the general flow of the methodology and bring out a few key elements before turning it to the next video where we'll zoom in on the measure phase, for example. The first video I'd like to move back to is deploying complex services. The third part of that was sustainable competitive advantage through faster learning. And I presented the strategic challenge as something very conceptual, a technical challenge coming with it, and I will zoom in on that part today, and then a social or human challenge with it, with value coming from doing the three things in a very well integrated, seamless fashion. Looking at the strategic part for now, we would first identify the very high level processes of the organization, measure that, and zoom into the vital part, taking it down to level 2. Then measure that and zoom into the vital part again, till ground level, again in the Google Earth to Google Street View analogy, measure that, and then try and improve it. Of the many processes that we have in an organization, we have to focus on the vital few before deploying the resources to make them better in order to make sure that they will generate strategic advantage. This, in other words, referring back to the chess metaphor that I've used previously, the chess game moves on, and at any point in time, the organization's got some challenge. And the first challenge is to pick the right process, doing the right thing. Once you've isolated that, then doing things right, which is what we are looking at right now. The first part then is the hinge that connects the project selection to the strategic consideration, the game plan. Then the methodology, our theme today, and that will include a toolkit, picking, using the right tool at the right time in a consistent fashion. And then the challenge of the change vehicle, managing change. We, in the second video that you've seen, we zoomed in to the first part of the methodology, which is the define phase, scoping process improvement projects in complex services, with many concepts herein. You will recall from this video that I used the example of a small company that develops IT systems. 70 people, 20 professionals. Half the workload come from competitive bidding. 25% of the time they're late. Their winning rate is very low. They don't generate as much follow-up work, which is where they make money. They lose money on more than 1 in 4 jobs. And they're not always bidding in their specialty. They would bid outside their specialty where, again, they're not in their area of excellence. And they've just been acquired by another company, venture capital. Call it the Romney Company. And there they go. I used the tools of the influence diagram to illustrate the scoping. And we ended up on preparing bid, addressing customer change request, and assessing initial risk. And we focused initially on preparing bid. And then we zoomed into the process mapping of that, starting to capture the flows, starting to measure actual times, actual capability, capacity, how many can you do per week, and so on. This, by the way, is getting us into the measure phase of the methodology. Prior to that, looking at the FAST diagram, as you review this video, of the SciTalk diagram, the process mission, we are in the define phase. This takes us to the measure phase. Now, let's look at these phases with a little more detail. Having defined this problem, if I try to improve right away, what can we fix? What's the solution to get more than 20% of our bids getting up to? Of course, I cannot answer that until I know what's wrong. And that's the purpose of the analyze phase. What's wrong exactly? Process, diagnosis. But of course, I cannot analyze unless I can measure it. Can I get the fact right and not work on the basis of superstition, of lies? Can I really get the facts? If not, then I cannot analyze. Then I cannot get a diagnostic, and I cannot improve. That's common sense, really. And once I get it right, can I keep it right? Do I have mechanisms, ways, organizational ways, technical ways, to make sure that it will stay there once it's improved? That's the DMAIC logic. It supersedes, it replaces and improves on the Deming wheel, the PDCA Deming wheel, Plan, Do, Check, Act, that some of you may recall. If you're still with that, we have better than this today. But it is in the same, it falls in the same logic as PDCA, but with 50 more years of practice and understanding. That's what's really critical and how to make it better. Let's now zoom in a little bit. DMAIC. Each of these step or phases takes in an input from the previous phase, processes it, transforms it into an output for the next phase. Define, measure, analyze, improve, and control, with the input being a problem or an opportunity, hopefully strategic, the right thing to do, and the output being the right way to do it, and mechanisms to make sure that when we can keep on doing it and improving over time. The transformation within each of these phases uses tools, and of course people to apply the tools. Some tools are simple, by which I mean they can be explained to regular people in 15 minutes. Some tools are complex, meaning it would take a lot of conceptual knowledge, a lot of studying, and a lot of practical experience in order to use them correctly. You will need some experts to do them right. Whether these experts are internal, external, or you start with some external to coach the internal is up to you. Some level of opportunity, of complexity, cannot be fully exploited unless you understand deeply these complex tools. Not to say that the simple tools are not important or not good. On the contrary, any tool that you can share with anyone in 15 minutes and get everyone working around it is extremely powerful. And many business problems can be solved with these tools. And particularly, they are great tools to help you to act as a lever to change the culture. Let's look at it in more details now. The input, the idea upper, comes from the chessboard that I illustrated. Key strategic issues coming out of the strategic plans, big whys, broken down into small whys, thoughtfully selected into the small whys on which we will focus projects. The define, you know well from the video with the example that I give and the examples from the book. You produce a scoped project which is input into the measure phase. And at that phase you ask yourself, can I get the facts? Can I reduce uncertainty about this enough that I can work with the resulting knowledge that I get. This knowledge is input here. The data is input into the analyzer. It will actually produce knowledge in the form of a diagnosis. A diagnosis is a short, specific statement of what the actual problem is with the facts to back it up. Why the facts? Of course, you don't want to work on the wrong, mistaken diagnosis. Primum non nocere. First, do no harm. Second, you must, in terms of change management, the soft side, you must convince people. Make your case. People, first ingredient for change management, convince me that you got it right. Where's your data? And you will need data from several sources in order to be convincing. And you will need people from various areas as well. Credible people. People whom you trust. Coming together with data and saying, we, the team, have found the problem. And this is it. And we, by the way, are quite open to listen to you. Where's your data? Bring us some data if we're wrong before we get together changing this, which is the hard, time-consuming, risky part. Give us your data. This is managing the soft side of change management. And the technical side, as you see, is vital. The data side as well is vital. So you produce this diagnosis. You do not jump to solutions. You do not discuss solutions until you've got a validated diagnosis, which is not to say that you don't generate ideas for change. Throughout the analytical process, ideas for change will pop up. It is essential that they be captured. It is equally essential that they not be discussed, because you are not in a position to discuss solution. You do not have a diagnostic to validate it. Will this solve that? Well, let's get that clear. Let's share that. Let's make sure we get it right. Then look at this. This is the improved part, where with a shared diagnostic, solidly anchored on data, the team, backed up by the organization, explores solutions, test solutions, validate them, implement them. That's the change part. There is, of course, a strong natural tendency in all organizations for people to jump to that, skip all the non-value added of analysis, data, and so on, jump to solution, fix it, move to something else. That's our ADHD type of mentality, attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder. Without the rigor, logical validity, evidence base, discipline, none of this is possible. So clearly, we are talking about a culture change in our organizations. Slides per se will not do that. Shared experience, successful change experience will change that. And then, of course, changing 1 week is one thing. Going to China for 1 week is a cultural experience. Going to live in China is culture change. At the control phase, the team is disbanded at some point and they get back to their day-to-day business. This involves a technical challenge. It involves an organizational challenge. It involves a cultural and social challenge as well. Having discussed the defined phase in some detail in the previous video, the next video will be here. The third video will be analyze, improve, and of course, control at the end. Each video will look at the toolkit, give a highlight view of the tools. Do not skim over the tools. And as much as a global understanding of what you're doing matters, understanding the detail is fundamental. The devil's in the detail. Do take the time to learn the tool and test them empirically with actual people, real problems. Then decide whether this works or not for you. Intelligent people first understand. Then they take a stand. And of course, I'm not the first one to discuss this, so go to the web. Surf the web a little bit here. Look at, I just took 5 minutes to pick a few things on the web. You'll find videos on YouTube, you'll find chat discussions, you'll find things in Wikipedia, all sorts of consulting companies, good ones, bad ones, professors, good ones, bad ones, and so on. Go look at what's there. Some of it is a fad. Some of it is faddish. Some of it is DNA of how you change things and how you become a learning organization and create a sustainable source of strategic advantage. It may be hard because some salespeople are pretty good with their dog and pony shows that really throwing sparkle, and you sort of lose sight of what is what. I'm trying to stay to the fundamental here, and you will find a lot of good material on the web as well. So do go and surf the web. In summary then, let's look at let's recap some of the takeaways from this short video. A shared process improvement methodology is a lever for continuous improvement and can be a source of sustainable competitive advantage. The DMAIC methodology is an improved version of the Deming wheel, if you know that one. If you don't, actually go to the web, go to the Deming wheel. You'll see the relationship really there, the ancestor. It can be seen as a process. That's DMAIC can be seen as a process where each step takes an input from the previous one, performs a transformation, and produces an output for the next step. Each step in the transformation requires a set of tools and techniques. Some are simple, while others are complex and may require a deep understanding of and experience with statistics. And that's years, of course. But you can go a long way with the simple tools. We should never lose focus on the job to be done, on the essential deliverables at each step, and match the tools to the job at hand. There's much hype about DMAIC, and much of the focus, I find, is often deliberately misplaced to keep it all mysterious and charge large fees to manage projects and train black belts or whatever name they give them. Don't fall for it, and I'm not saying that all black belt training is bad. I'm saying that there is a lot of pizzazz built around this. Don't write it off as flavor of the day either. There is great stuff in there. Don't forget that the devil's in the detail. Don't skim again over the techniques and give it a try before making your mind. Surf the net and see for yourself what's out there, what's good, and what's not. Thank you very much.